Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this session on beginner's guide to score 750 plus on GMAT. How can you actually get started with the GMAT journey and make sure that you reach your target score in the very first attempt in 2023. So I'm Piyush, I'm going to be a main host in the session today and I'm very excited to have all of you in the session. Before I proceed, I would just like to know if all of you can hear me loud and clear. If some of you can go ahead and let me know that in the chat, that will be great. Let me know if my audio is loud and clear to all of you. In the meantime, I'll get started with the session with a quick intro about myself, and please feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself as well. I would love to know where you're from, what is that you do, and what is your stage of GMAT preparation currently. So please feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself and let me know if my audio is loud and clear. Okay, so I see more and more people joining in the session today. So really glad to have all of you here. Quick intro about myself. I'm Piyush. I'm going to be a main host. I have about 10 years of experience mentoring people, targeting B schools globally, like tier 1 B schools globally. I've helped people get into all kind of B schools that you can think of, like starting from Harvard, Wharton, Stanford of the world, INSEAD, Kellogg, Cornell, any top school that you can think of in the globe, around the globe. We've helped people get into these top schools. I prepared for CAT and GMAT myself, and I've also taught for both the tests. So basically, I have a very vast experience of these two tests. Scored a 740 on GMAT in my very first attempt with a Quant 50 and a verbal 41, and a 99.9 percentile in the CAT exam, which is to Indian candidates. You probably know CAT is the test that we take for Indian MBA in like colleges basically. And I personally like analyzing data and trying to come up with strategies. So that's a quick intro about me, not getting too much in detail. Currently working as a strategy expert at GMAT West. We help people improve their GMAT scores, get to the best schools in the world. That's what we love doing. So please let me know if you can hear me loud and clear, and I would love to hear more about you. So please feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself, especially your stage of GMAT preparation. And I know sometimes people don't answer open-ended questions, so I just have the right question for you over here. And today, this session is going to be very interesting because we're going to learn a lot about GMAT as a test. Okay, and I'm going to actually help you understand what the GMAT is. And that's why I've mentioned this is a beginner's guide for GMAT test because many people don't just understand how GMAT works and get into the prep mode right away and realize that they have wasted about good a month, 2 months, or 3 months time also in many cases because they did not do enough research on what GMAT really is or did not understand what GMAT really is. In today itself, I've spoken to like two different people who have done that same mistake, and I don't want you to make that mistake. So we're going to have a lot of interesting discussion. But let's start with the first question. Okay, so this question is for you. You need to tell me what is your present GMAT preparation stage. So I'm going to give you multiple options, and you just have to type 1, 2, 3, 4 on the screen. That's all you have to do. So I want to know whether you are yet to start the preparation or like yet to start or we have started for less than 30 days. I consider it in the same week, basically. Okay. So if you are yet to start your GMAT preparation or you have been preparing for less than 30 days, just go ahead and mention one. If you have been preparing for 1 or 2 months, just mention two. And if you have been preparing for 3 to 6 months, mention three. And if you have been preparing for more than 6 months, mention four. Okay, so please go ahead. I would like to see your answers on this question because it is very important for me to know what is the what are the different backgrounds that you guys are coming from. What is the status of a GMAT prep? Because as our motto at GMAT is goes, personalizing learning experiences for students. I'm gonna personalize the session based on your input, guys. So based on the level that you guys are at, I'm gonna dynamically change. I'm gonna focus more on specific areas depending on how many people are from which category. Okay, so I have the first response. Ritika starts the discussion. She says, I'm in category one. I'm just starting my preparation or I've been preparing for less than 30 days. Okay, Shantanu is all the way in category four, like the other spectrum, like preparing for more than 6 months. Hi Akash, happy to see you here. Please go ahead and tell me which option are you in currently. Okay, so I have Advait coming in, Ashik also coming in with option one. Both of you are starting your prep. I see that. Okay, Shreya is in option three. Okay, and Akash, another person, Akash also mentions option four. So I have three people in stage one. I have like couple of people in stage 4 till now and one person in stage 3. Okay, Akash has just changed his vote to stage 1. So I see most of you are in stage 1 and yeah, like definitely I am gonna talk a lot about GMAT. So specifically focusing on people who are in stage 1 like Soumya, Akash, Advait, and who else? Ritika, I think Ashik as well. So basically, for you guys, I'm gonna start the session. Like the first next maybe 5 to 10 minutes are gonna be focused around it, or maybe 15 minutes, where we will first understand what the GMAT really is. And I'm not gonna bore you with those technical things like okay, GMAT test, you on Quant, verbal, the IR and EWA, the number of questions that are there, not any boring stuff because I'm pretty sure that you can get that on the internet. What I'm going to focus on are important pieces of information which you will get to learn only from experience, which is more critical for you to learn, which will impact your preparation much more than anything else. All right, so I see Anshika also in the same category. So let's first, like before I get to that information, let me test your understanding of the GMAT. Let's see how well do you understand the GMAT. I know most of you are in stage 1 right now. So most of you would not be able to answer many of these questions. But let's still see because through this quiz, we will learn a lot about the test as well. This quiz is going to be an eye opener. This quiz is going to be helping us understanding the test, and then we'll draw the inferences that way. So, are you all excited about the quiz? I hope so, right? Let's see. Yes, no. Are you excited? Let's see how well you know the test. Okay, Anshika, without any questions, she has gone ahead. It's an adaptive test. Great, Anshika. I'm very happy to hear that. All right. So this is the first question. A rather tricky one. But how many topics do you think are tested on quant in GMAT? Like I consider topics like ratios, averages, prime numbers, and all. So what do you think? What is the right number? How many topics are tested in GMAT quant? What do you think? Any idea, guys? Like, you can just go ahead and type your answers. Okay, Ashik says my voice is not clear. I hope it is clear for others. That's why I want to do a audio check in the beginning. I asked all of you if you can hear me loud and clear. Did not get a response on that part, so I assume that everyone can hear me. All right, I'm seeing options coming in, answers coming in. Ritika goes for 25, Anshina goes for 30, Divija 20, 30. Okay, okay. Again, this is a rather tough question, and that's why I've written around because how you split different topics is something which can actually determine the number of topics tested on test. But the good thing is, why I have kept this question over here is because GMAT is a very standardized test in the sense that if the topics that are tested on GMAT is very limited and very precise, very standardized overall. Okay, I see that multiple people are telling me my voice audio is not very great. Just bear with me for like a couple of minutes. Once I go for the next question, I'll give you the next question. I'm gonna take up. I'll try to connect with a different audio. Let's see, we can improve the audio over there. Okay, so bear with me for like a couple of minutes on that. So overall, if you see the number of topics which are tested on GMAT Quant are approximately 33, basically. There are 33 quant topics that are tested on GMAT. And GMAT is a very standardized test. They test you on specific topics and specific type of questions within each topic. That's something which is really very unique about the test. The list of topics that GMAT tests you on are listed on your screen and also have mentioned the right order in which you should be learning these topics. Again, I'll be definitely talking about this in the session going forward. So Ashik is saying my audio is much better now. So I think now the audio should have been fixed. Like I hope that is the case with others as well. So Akash and Soumya, if you can also tell me if my audio is better now, that will be great. I'll still try to see if I can arrange a different microphone later in the session. But if for now the audio is good, you can tell me. Okay, so yes, this is one interesting question. So some of you, I think none of you got it right. So some of you mentioned around 30, Anshika mentioned around 30, SC mentioned around 30. That's pretty much close. So let's change the question to the next one. How many verbal questions are scored on GMAT? Now this is a tricky question. Okay, let's understand this. How many verbal questions are scored on GMAT? And I want you guys to focus your attention on the word scored. Okay. So there are 36 questions in the GMAT verbal section. How many of them are scored? You have multiple options. First option, all 36 questions are scored. Second option, 33 questions are scored. Third option, 30 questions are scored. Fourth option, 27 questions are scored. And the last option is for those of you who are hearing it for the first time. If you're hearing it for the first time, that there is something called scored questions and unscored questions or experimental questions, you can pick that option as well. So that option is also available to you. Okay, so let's see how well you guys understand the GMAT. All right, I'm seeing responses. I see Divija, Ritika, and Sumit Kumar going for 30. So Divija, Ritik, and Sumit Kumar going for 30. I have Satish going for 27. Okay, Satish is going for 27. Ping pong goes for 33. Okay, interestingly, okay, I just got the first person, Rockstar, who says, I am hearing it for the very first time. Okay, so now my audio is a bit fuzzy. Let me see, like I'll try my best to get another one. So in the meantime, you guys vote. I'm gonna just try and check if I can get another microphone. So just, I'm gonna be on mute for a minute, maybe. Take your shot at this question in the meantime, yeah. I hope the audio should be better now, guys. Is the audio any better now? I've just tried to connect into a different mic. This should kind of improve the audio quality. Just let me know if it is better, and yeah, that way we can continue using this mic. All right. So I see a few more options. I see an option going for a person going for 33, Captain SC both going for 33 as well. Great. So I have two more people going for 33, right? So basically, yeah, it is and was perfect to me. Great net. So happy that. Okay, Akash has come up with a different answer. He says 31 questions are scored. All right. So let me tell you guys what is the right answer to this one. So only 30 questions in verbal are scored. There are 6 experimental questions in the GMAT, which are not scored at all. They are used to understand the level of the questions, like for the oral test level of the questions for the other student, basically. Okay, so that's how the scored questions are there on the GMAT. 30 are scored, 6 are experimental. There's no way for you to know which ones are the experimental questions and which ones are the scored questions. That's something you cannot really know about. Okay, so let me see, my microphone should be working better, hopefully. So Ashik is the only person who's saying it has worsened now. But Nitz is saying it's perfect, so I have an equal split. And this mic generally works better. So I'm gonna go with this mic for the time being. But yeah, like others, if you can tell me if my audio has improved, that will help. Akash, why experimental questions? Because again, GMAT is a test which is administered like 365 days a year. You can take it anytime. So they have to create a fresh pool of questions so that it doesn't get repeated a lot. So in order to do that, you have to test the skill level of the question. Obviously, the question creators are skilled. They also have a different understanding of the question difficulty level, but they want to test it on real-time basis based on student data. So they make students take the test, throw some experimental questions, and based on the student performance, they try to understand basically whether the skill level that they thought the question is at is the right skill level or not. Maybe a hint would be that they are relatively easier. Not really. We cannot say that experimental questions are easier, so you cannot assume those things, right? So there's no way to know which are experimental questions. They're only scored on the 30 questions that are scored. Now, let me take the difficulty level of the question to the next level. The next question. So those of you who can answer this well probably understand the GMAT the best, basically, more possible. So let's see. Which of the 3 sections, SCCR and RC, out of RC, SCCR and RC, carries the highest weightage on GMAT? Let's understand that. All three are equally important, like all three SCCR and RCSC sentence corrections. CR is critical reasoning and RC is reading comprehension. Okay, Akash says my audio is still not clear. All right. Uh, okay, so which of these are the most important? RC, SC, CR equally important. What do you think, guys? What do you think is the correct answer to this one? And do you think it varies from test to test? Let's see your responses. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your responses. So I see Ritika, Ankit, Neds, and Anshika going for CR. CR seems to be the most popular choice. From management perspective, CR must be of top priority. Okay, I like that thought process, but sadly, CR is the least important of all the three. To be honest, basically, CR is the least important for all the three. Okay, thank you, Anshika and ST for telling me my audio is clear. So I think some of you who might be facing issues with my audio, it's possible that you might have to check your internet connection once because generally these earphones do a very good job at the audio. All right. Equally important is what Sumit says. Okay, I also used to feel that all three are equally important. Sadly, that's not the case. Approximately 12 questions in sentence correction are scored out of the 30. 10 questions are from RC that are scored, and CR there are 8 questions which are scored. So SC is the most important section. Critical reasoning is the least important. RC, I would say, even though it's like 10 basically out of like 30, and it's two less than SC, but still, since RC is a RCs come consecutively, they end up becoming almost as equally important as sentence correction. So I would say it is sentence correction just a bit more important than RC, almost equally important, almost very close. And CR is the least important section, carries the least weightage. Like, and how do I come to this data? Some of you might challenge me, Piyush, how do you know that? GMAT doesn't reveal this data. Yes, GMAT never reveals this data. GMAT doesn't tell you this data on the page. But if you're smart and you can do some ESR analysis, for example, I've looked at thousands of ESRs in my entire life, like more than like 2, 3 thousand maybe. Like every single day I look at a new ESR. And there are data points which they give, which can be easily interpreted. So if you look at the accuracy chart, accuracy data points, you'll understand this 42% accuracy is only possible when this is 3 by 7, 42.85 rounded off. The 60% is possible when it is a base of 5, like 3 by 5. You can say it's 6 by 14 or 6 by 10 also is possible here. But again, those numbers will not fit because these two combined will be 24 questions. So the only possibility is 7 plus 12, 7 plus 5, 12 questions overall. Similarly, over here, this is 3 by 5 and this is 5, 6 by 7. So again, using some mathematical understanding, I've used multiple ESRs, looked at multiple ESRs, and almost all cases, you will understand that SC has 12 scored questions, RC has 10 scored questions, and CR has 8 scored questions, basically. Okay. So no wonder some of them make disastrous decisions. Okay. Yeah. So I understand that angle here, but yeah, that's something how GMAT tests you on, right? So again, try to understand. See, there's so many different things which you might not know about GMAT. Now, some of you might be thinking, Piyush, why is this relevant? Why are you telling me all this? This is very relevant information, guys. Because if you don't understand the importance, and if you think that okay, my CR is pretty good, I just need to work on SC and RC, or my RC is just poor, or SC is just poor, I'm good at the other two areas, and you can do very well on the GMAT. Think again, because you have to think about the weightages that they can. You have to also think about the experimental questions and all of that. How is your GMAT score calculated? This is the next question, guys. How is the GMAT score calculated? What do you think? On basis of your accuracy, like all other tests, let's say you get 20 out of 30 questions right, and you get a 20% like of the score, like sorry, 66% of the score, 66% accuracy, 66% of the score. Or is it your accuracy minus negative marking, like the questions that you got wrong are deducted from the accurate ones, like something like how CAT calculates your score, or the level at which you end the test, or is it average difficulty of correctly attempted questions, or is it too complicated for you to understand? What do you think? How is your GMAT score calculated? Like many people don't even understand that. You see a 760, 770 out of 800. Many people don't know what the 760, 770 means. They have nothing to do with the individual marks which are assigned to your question. Okay, so Soumya says level at which you end the test. Okay, Divija has come up with an answer. Very complicated. I do agree. It's very complicated. Definitely. Akash, Anshika, Owen, all of you are going with that answer, right? That's the easiest answer that you can pick up. Okay. Okay, I see Nets and Soumya going with level at which you end the test. All right. Okay. So I'm going to answer that for you quickly as well, basically. Don't worry about that. It's adaptive. Anshika says average difficulty of correctly attempted questions. Okay. So Ankit, you're the only person who has went ahead with the choice. You have a lot of people on both on other sides of you. Like people are saying it's complicated. People are saying level at which you end the test. Okay. Akshay says your audio device isn't working well. All right. I think I'll have to hear my audio as well once. Let me just check it, guys. Yeah, in the meantime, you can continue answering this question for me. Okay. Okay. I think if some of you are able to hear me, Mitch is saying it's fine for him. Probably it's the internet connection that you might have to look at. Yeah. Okay. So let's understand what's the answer. So the answer to this one is actually complicated. From my experience, again, I've looked at thousands of ESRs. My experience, it's a mix of C and D. It's not one or the other, basically. It's a mix of C and D, where basically means that it also depends on the average difficulty of the correctly attempted questions and the level at which you end the test. It's a mix of both the things. It's not one or the other, basically. More of D, I would say, than C is what I would say. And it's complicated to understand how GMAT scoring works. So in simple terms, what GMAT looks at is how many correct questions you have gotten at various difficulty levels. So I would like say this is something which is in your control. This is something which helps you control this one. So it's D that helps you control C. C is not directly in your control. D is in your control. So what you need to do is get a lot of hard questions right in order to do well on the test. That's something which is very important. Okay. I hope that makes things clear, guys. Now let's take the next step. Let's understand how GMAT is different. How GMAT is different in terms of your preparation. Why do you need to be conscious of this particular factor over here? All right. So I'll just relate to CAT. I'll just talk about CAT a bit because many of you I see are from India. Many people who attend this webinars are from the Indian subcontinent, and they are exposed to this test CAT. Some of you might be probably might have taken the CAT this year. Some of you might have taken it earlier. And what we generally do is we extend the logic that we had for CAT preparation, for GMAT preparation, thinking that they are one or the same thing. Right? Similar things, right? Similar tests on similar areas. So probably the preparation should be similar. But they're very different tests, and you need to understand that. Why is it different? How is it different? I'm going to focus on it a little bit because this is important for you to understand. Otherwise, you might make a mistake which I made in the initial time of my preparation, or many of the other people make as well. So let's understand. Let me recall my CAT experience days a bit here. Okay, I'm not sure, guys. This is weird. Just give me one more second, guys. The audio issue is troubling. Yeah. I think the audio should be better now.
The audio now, guys? Is the audio better now? I hope it is better because I've just changed to. Uh, so hopefully it should be better. And it was saying that it had become distorted in between. So I'll just go back to my cat experience a bit to kind of help you in understanding basically how the two tests work differently are not able to relate to that, understand like how the two tests are different, and they prepare the same, they follow the same approach that they had for the cat prep, for the GMAT prep as well. And in the end, sometimes that doesn't work out for very well for them. So you have to understand how those two tests are different, and according then you will be able to actually save a lot of your time and effort in your preparation. Thank you, Somya, for letting me know that this audio is the test. Yeah, I'll stick to this one. Nit says I'm completely starting afresh, but don't worry. Like even if you have not taken the test, cat, you'll still be able to learn something from this experience. So I took a second attempt on the cat in 2016. Like this was after I did my MBA from MDI Gurgaon, and at that stage, I remember when I was doing the DILR set. In CAT, generally in 2016, what used to happen was there were 8 sets of data interpretation and logical reasoning of 4 questions each. That was the entire paper, test paper. Now, what people generally used to do was they used to go through the questions sequentially. And if you understand CAT well, the trick in the CAT is to select the easy and medium questions and do them. You have to selectively do questions because exactly same marks are assigned to all questions. So what I simply did was I started the test. I attempted the first set because I found it easy. I had the habit that okay, I read a set, I'll try to see what is the complexity. From my experience, I had prepared well. So from my experience, I'll try to see what is the complexity. If I find that set to be easy, I'll do it right away. Easy or medium, I'll do it right away. If I'm not confident that I can do this, I will rather wait a bit and skip that for the moment, and I'll come back to that set once again later on. Okay. I know you are attending a GMAT session. I'm talking about CAT, but it's important for you to relate, understand the difference between the two tests. So stay with me on that. So I moved to the second set. Okay. I read the second set. I read the prompt. It was a tough one. I skipped it. I moved to the third set. I saw it is also tough. I skipped it. And trust me, it's not easy to do. Like you might feel that I'm saying it's easy. It might sound easy, but it's not easy. People who were taking the test around me were actually sweating during the data interpretation section because they were not able to skip that many sets. So they were solving those questions which are coming in front of them. So second set, many people wasted their time. Third set, many people wasted their time. Even the fourth set was very complex. So I happily skipped the next 3 sets after attempting the first one, and then I attempted the next 3 sets. Like the first one I did, second, third, fourth I skipped, fifth, sixth, seventh I did properly because those were easy sets. And for the last set, I just picked one question. I could only complete one question in the time which was available to me. So overall, in the entire test, I completed 4 out of 8 sets. Okay, along with one question. Now many people like might panic at this stage that I was also thinking that I've just attempted 50% questions. I used to generally attempt 70-80% questions, so my attempt was around 52%. Okay, you might think that this is a very bad attempt on the test. When I came out of the test center, people were talking about data sufficiency, data interpretation being the toughest section in CAT in that year. People were saying I could only attempt 5 sets, I could only attempt 6 sets, and I was like, I've just attempted 4. Have I done it right? Have I not? And you won't believe the scorecard. Like I can show you the exact scorecard as well. My percentile in data interpretation was 99.89. And just to give you some context, 99.89 basically means if there are 10,000 people taking the test, then I'm in the top 11. Or if they are, let's say, 1 lakh 10,000, 1 lakh people who have taken the test, I'm in basically top 100, approximately 100 students who scored on this particular section. Now, what is that I'm coming to? What is that I'm arriving through this data point? That what I'm arriving through this data point is that I only attempted easy and medium questions. I did not even care about the hard questions, right? The trick in CAT is to pick only easy and medium questions, and it works well. just picking easy and medium questions, or maybe attempting one set which was slightly difficult, slightly more difficult than the others, I could get such a great score in CAT. Like my overall score in CAT was again a 99.9 percentile, as I told you a little while earlier. So I was able to get to that score by only picking up easy and medium questions. And people who focus, who prepare for CAT or who teach for CAT, who are tutor for CAT, they know this well. Any good teacher will know this, that it's about picking the right easy and medium questions. Even if you don't do the hard questions, you still get a good score on CAT. So the entire preparation around CAT is circled around that fact, that you have to focus on accuracy, because all the questions carry equal weightage. I did 52% questions correctly. Whatever I attempted it correctly. Many people attempted more, but their accuracy was poor. Since their accuracy was poor, their score was poor. So in CAT, you rely on accuracy. In CAT, you rely on picking easy and medium questions. You get them right. That's how you prepare for CAT. Now, how does it impact your preparation? I'm going to come to that. But for that, we have to understand how GMAT scoring also works. So if you look at GMAT, like I'm just showing you a scorecard over here. This scorecard is the verbal scorecard of mine from the GMAT. It's a part of enhanced scorecard that you can actually get from the GMAT after the test. What it shows is my verbal score, which is verbal 41. It's a 90. It's an equivalent of 93 percentile, by the way. And what it also shows is the number of mistakes that I made in the entire test. All right. So I made a total of 7 mistakes in the entire test. Okay, guys, you with me on this? No need to understand the individual data points, but I made a total of 7 mistakes in the entire test. Now look at the second scorecard on the right side. Okay, the left side is the same scorecard that I showed you, my scorecard, verbal 41, 7 mistakes, 93 percentile. You look at this scorecard. This student made total of 5 mistakes in the entire test. I made 7. This student made 5 mistakes. So obviously his accuracy is way better than mine. And I want you to take a guess on the verbal score of this student. My score was a 41. The highest verbal score possible in GMAT verbal is 51. What do you think would be the verbal score of this particular candidate? Tell me about that. Take your time if you want to. Take your time to think. He has made 5 mistakes. I made 7 mistakes. Lesser mistakes. What should be the verbal score? Take your time. Think and tell me. Okay, so I'm getting some responses. Sumit says 40, Uban says 38. You really think it should be lower than 41? With a better accuracy, it should be lower than 41. Should it be lower than 41? Akash says I have no idea. Okay, I totally understand that. If you're very new, but any guesses that you can make? Logically, Nit says it should be 44. Ankit says 41. It feels like a data sufficiency question. Yeah, it is a it is a tricky question. You probably need more data here. Yeah. SC says 47 to 48. Okay, it should be more, Akash says. Ideally, it should be more, right? That's what all of most of us think. Like if I was new to the GMAT, I were new to the GMAT. If I were to go through this data points, I would have said this should be like if 7 mistakes is 41, total score is my highest score is 51. 5 mistakes should be close to that 43, 44 mark, if not more. That would have been my guess as well, right? But you would be really damned to see the verbal score of the student. And this is not Photoshop. I have the ESR of the student with me. 34. We're talking about a verbal score of 34. Just to put things into perspective, this is a 70 percentile score approximately, and this is a 93 percentile score we are talking about here. Can you see the difference? And another, just to add more perspective to it, with a Quant 50, this score becomes a 740, 750 kind of a number. With a Quant 50, this score just becomes a 690, 700 kind of a number. So around 50 points difference that you see here. It can be a difference between you making into a school and not making into a school. It can be the difference between you getting a scholarship, not getting a scholarship at all. So next, it's not the experimental questions which define your difficulty level. It's basically the accuracy in the questions that you get correct. So that's how the GMAT is different. GMAT is not a usual test. You cannot use your CAT tactics or anything else on the GMAT. It doesn't work on GMAT because for GMAT, you have to prepare for an adaptive test. And how does the adaptive test work? It works in a very, very, very different way. In adaptive tests, your skill matters more than your accuracy. So if you focus on accuracy and just getting questions right, you're not getting prepared for a test like GMAT. You're actually making a fool out of yourself. It's skill that matters on a test like GMAT. It matters which questions are you getting right. So my CAT strategy of just attempting the easy and medium questions will fall flat on its face for GMAT. I had to adapt my strategies for GMAT. Because in GMAT, it matters which questions you are getting correct. A easy question carries less weightage than a medium question, which carries less weightage than a hard question. So you have to focus on building the right skills. And what is this, what do I mean by skill? Skill is the ability to get a question of any difficulty level correct. That too consistently. I will just add the word consistently over here. Because if you're not consistent in an adaptive test, you cannot just do well. Okay. Now, what does a score of 700 plus then signify? Some of you are asking, why does this happen? I'll just explain that to you as well. A 700 plus score basically signifies that you should be able to get a 90 to 100% accuracy on easy and medium questions. So till this point, we have to follow the same strategy as CAT. In CAT also, you have to do well on easy and medium questions. Here also, you have to do well on easy and medium questions. That part is taken care of. So you have to definitely do well on easy and medium questions, but just getting this easy to medium questions correct will get you to a score range of 600 to 650. Okay. And that's the biggest reason you will find most people getting stuck in the score range. If you go on popular forums, like even go on GMAT Club, you'll find many people talking every single day about them getting stuck in the score range. Why do they get stuck in the score range? Because they prepare in a way where they are focusing on getting the easy and medium questions. They don't want to do that, but inevitably they are actually doing it. They are preparing in a way where they are only able to get the easy and medium questions correct. They are not preparing in a way where they can even get the hard questions correct. In order to get a 700 plus on GMAT, you at least need a 50 to 60% accuracy just to crack the 700 level. If you want to reach higher, you need to have a much better accuracy in the hard questions. That's how you score well on the test. That's something which is very, very important for you to understand how GMAT works. Now, some of you are asking why Piyush this happened with the student. So let me explain this. So again, I do conduct a more detailed session on the test taking strategy on the GMAT. So I'll just give you the link for that session as well. So any one of you wants to see the entire detailed discussion around this, you can check out this session recording. It's on our YouTube channel. You can go ahead and check this out later on. Bookmark this for the time being. You will get a detailed explanation. But today's session is about GMAT preparation. Okay, so I'm going to just cover this very shortly, and then we'll move forward to GMAT preparation part. So why this works this way is because in GMAT, initially everyone is served with medium difficulty questions. And if you get those questions correct, you get hard questions. If you get those questions correct, you get very hard questions. So that's how the adaptive test works. So the student on the right side that you see who scored a verbal 34 and made 3 mistakes in the first quarter, she made 3 mistakes in the very first 3 or 4 questions. Because of which the algorithm felt that she cannot get the medium questions right, and it brought her down to easy medium questions and easier questions. And once she was down to easier questions, to pull herself back to the level of medium, A, she wasted some precious questions because just to get back to the medium level again. And B, when you are at easy level, the algorithm needs more assurance. More assurance in the sense it needs a better accuracy across more questions to be 100% sure that you can actually get to medium question. Because it's much more easier to get an easy question right than a medium question right. I hope you're getting my point. So she wasted a lot of questions just to get back to the medium level because she went to the easy level. On the other hand, when I started the test, I also made 2 mistakes, but they did not happen in the beginning of the test. I was able to get a high accuracy in the beginning. The difficulty level increased significantly, and I kept on increasing the difficulty level with a consistent performance. I did not getting like consecutive questions wrong. So that's a very short explanation. You can check out this recording to get a detailed explanation of this. But how does this impact your preparation? How does this impact your preparation? And why I was talking about CAT so much? The reason how it impacts your preparation is this one single line.
Shortcuts don't work on GMAT. If anyone is telling you that, okay, I can actually teach you the shortcuts, or you're going to a session and they're showing you this neat tricks, the tricks that you can use on the GMAT and you can get everything correct, that's a red flag. Shortcuts don't work on GMAT because shortcuts only work on easy and medium questions. Shortcuts don't work on hard questions. They do not work on hard questions at all. They simply work on easy and medium questions. In a hard question, the same shortcut, if you want to apply that, there will be a trick. You have to make adjustments. And if you don't know the logic behind how these shortcuts were created in the first place, you will never be able to understand and identify and apply that shortcut in that scenario. Okay, so you'll not be able to use the shortcut properly, and that's when you will end up struggling with your preparation. You'll not be able to understand how should I go about implementing this. So if you are preparing using shortcuts, if you are focusing on saving time from the get-go, that okay, you know what, I am able to get the hard questions right from the very beginning. Like I can get the hard questions right, given that I have 4 or 5 minutes to solve the question. So all I need to do is improve my speed, and you start focusing on shortcuts. You are preparing to fail on the test. And what are the shortcuts that are popular in the industry? And this is something which I was also exposed to as a student, and I wasted precious time on these shortcuts. So I'm requesting all of you to not fall for these shortcuts because you'll be ending up wasting your time in the end. One of them is to use the splits approach in sentence correction, basically. So many people say you just follow a grammatical approach, look at the option choices, try to see what are the differences, point of differences in the options. Try to apply your grammar understanding to which parts of speech it belongs to, and based on that, you apply a grammar rule. Doesn't work on hard questions. Simply doesn't work on hard questions. Skimming, many people say, in fact, you will see popular people talking on YouTube videos from popular brands saying that you can just read, I can help you solve a question in less than 60 seconds in RC. You just read the first line of a para, last line of a para, and you get the question right. Sadly, doesn't work on GMAT. Skimming doesn't work on GMAT. It works on IELTS. It doesn't work on GMAT, basically. Jumping to statements in data sufficiency doesn't work on GMAT. So if your learning is shortcut focused, you are preparing to fail. Then what should your learning be about? Let's get to that. Your learning should be divided in 3 phases of preparation. You should not underestimate the GMAT. You should not think, okay, I'll just start with the GMAT, I'll just do OG directly. That's another big mistake which many people do. They just start with the OG. Definitely a great book. Definitely a great book when it comes to questions. But before going to that book to utilize those questions properly, you need to first prepare yourself with respect to the concepts, with respect to the application of those concepts. So first step, there are 3 broad steps in your learning preparation for the GMAT that you have to focus on. First one is your learning phase. This is where you spend good, again, it depends how much, how skilled you are. This is where you spend about 100 to 200 hours of your effort, and this should be about 70% of your entire prep journey. So this is where you will focus on learning all the concepts along with the application of those concepts in a process centric fashion. You'll have to learn a structured methodology of solving questions as well. So there has to be a very good structure around it. Where should you start? What you should do? I'll talk about this right after this slide. I'll talk about the learning phase, how you should structure it as well. The second stage of your learning, after you have learned, in learning phase, you are spending again 60 to 70% of your time on solving questions also. But when you're solving questions, it's not just randomly solving questions, it's solving questions structurally in a way that you are actually developing right skills. And I'm going to talk about those skills that I also talked about a little earlier. The second phase of your preparation is fine-tuning phase, which should take about 50 to 20% of your effort, basically. So again, if you do this phase properly, the fine-tuning phase is something which should consume around 50 hours of your effort, basically, ideally. So here you're just focusing on your weak areas in terms of your, let's say, concept weaknesses, timing related weaknesses, process related weaknesses, and all of that, basically. And the last phase should be your mocks phase, where your total time spent is about 10 to 15% of your entire preparation. Around 30 to 40 hours of effort is basically required on this. And this is something which you have to understand. Mocks come towards the end. If you're thinking that, okay, I would be doing 1 mock every week, and let me ask this question, how many of you who are just starting your preparation, who are in stage 1 that I asked earlier, how many of you thought that I'll be taking one mock every week or every 2 weeks or every month of my GMAT preparation? How many of you thought that? And please be honest with me. There's no harm in saying a yes or no here. Just want to see if you were thinking in that direction or not. Just helps me stay in touch with the mentality of students in the current scenario. But I hear this is a very often. People come to me and say, Piyush, you know what, I'm planning to take a mock every month, every fortnight, just to see where I'm progressing, how I'm progressing. At GMAT Ways, we recommend that you should be taking only mocks only in the last stage of your preparation. Obviously, you need to know where you are progressing, how you are progressing. So obviously, there should be other tools. At GMAT Ways, we have multiple tools to show you what your progress is. But you should not be taking multiple mocks at relevant stages. At least for GMAT, it doesn't work. For my GMAT exam, before my GMAT exam, the total number of mocks that I took were three. Before my CAT exam, the total number of mocks that I took were 60. See the stark difference. Okay. For CAT, you need to take a lot of mocks. I used to take a mock every single week of my preparation towards last end. And in the beginning, also, I used to take about a mock every fortnight. Because in CAT, the main thing that matters is picking the right set of questions. In GMAT, on the other hand, the main thing that matters is basically being able to solve questions of all difficulty levels correctly. Okay, so next, yes, you can take a mock test in the beginning to start understand where you stand in the beginning. You can do that. I don't mind that. But again, like if you're starting, if you have the good tools like GMAT and all, you don't even need to take a mock test. There are multiple diagnostic tests that come as a part of our platform, which will automatically identify your weak areas and strong areas and create the coursework accordingly. So that is something which can be avoided also, and you can preserve that mock for practice later on. But if you want to do that, you can always do that. So I see Arjun saying, yes, I was planning to do it, but I hear a lot of students planning to do it. So again, mocks should be coming at the last stage. So let's talk about the first stage, the learning stage. This is the most crucial stage. If done correctly, this will save you tons of hours, because I've seen people spending this much time in this stage or maybe less time here, but I've seen people spending 200 to 300 hours in this stage itself and still not able to get the score, getting stuck around the 650 mark itself. So what is important is the learning phase. You need to get that right. So let's understand the right sequence of studying. Let's start with verbal, because that's something which actually creates a lot of problems for many people. So let's start with verbal. So what is the right sequence of studying for verbal? Now there are three sections in verbal: sentence correction, critical reasoning, and RC. So let me ask you guys who are just starting your prep, what is the right sequence that you guys are thinking you should be following for SCCR? Should you be doing it in a certain order? Should you be doing all of them parallelly? What do you think? Just want to hear your thoughts first. I'm going to definitely show my thought process here, explain my thought process to you as well. And I don't want you to buy my thought process. I want you to understand my thought process. If you like it, go ahead with it. If you don't like it, just dump it. That's all. But what is your thought process right now? What do you think is the right sequence of studying for verbal that you're going to follow? Okay, do let me know that. Okay, Ned says I would like to do SC first. All right. And by the way, any one of you wants to understand like how the GMAT with team can help you prepare for the GMAT efficiently and get a 700 plus because in your first attempt, you can schedule a call with our team using this link. Okay, so Ankur says RC, then critical reasoning, then sentence correction. I hope, Ankur, that is what you meant. What about others? What do you guys think is the right section order you should follow? Just two responses, about 40 plus people watching this session live. What do you think should be the right sequence of studying for verbal? Okay, and let's try to understand it also from a skill perspective. So as I said, there are skills that are tested on GMAT. GMAT is a very advanced test. It tests your actual managerial capabilities. Like one of you was saying that ideally critical reasoning should be the top skill that should be tested. But what you need to understand is that critical reasoning is not just tested on in critical reasoning, it is tested in other areas as well. So Ashik says I'm actually still looking for it. So I'm definitely gonna help you with that. Okay, I'll probably go do SC first as an English is my first language, then RC, and then critical reasoning. Ankit says three topics together with basics on how to attend. Okay, so see, there are different perspectives that I'm getting. Different people think in a different ways. They read different articles, different strategies are recommended. But let's understand the logic behind it. So what I'm gonna do now is basically let's focus on the fact what are the skills that are tested on GMAT verbal. Okay, so first test that is tested on GMAT verbal, first skill that is tested on GMAT verbal is comprehension. How clearly can you comprehend any information which is given to you, especially the complex sentences that GMAT tests you on? There are serious, very complex sentences, subject verb inversions, clauses being used as the subject of a thing, and there are many different constructions that are used. Are you able to comprehend the meaning of a sentence 100%, not 70%, not 80%? That's the first skill which is tested. Second skill which is tested is analytical reasoning. If there are multiple pieces of information given to you, can you connect those pieces of information together and understand whether there's a flaw in the argument, whether there is a jump in the argument, or if there are multiple pieces of information, can you understand what can be inferred and what cannot be inferred out of it? Similarly, another skill which is tested on GMAT is a verbal is identifying the main idea. If there is a long passage which is given, can you identify the main idea? Now, all three skills that you see are key managerial skills because on a day-to-day basis, you have to communicate with people. So you have to write properly in a way that everyone who is reading your message is able to understand it in the same way. Your communication should be clear. Second, you have to make decisions based on information provided to you. So analytical skills should be good. Third, you have to deal with a lot of case studies in your B school, and later on also you have to do with a lot of case studies, a lot of information. Can you identify the main intent, the main point out of all that? So these are three very important skills which are tested in GMAT verbal. Okay. Now, if I map these three skills to the three sections of GMAT, sentence correction only has one sentence. So you have to only focus on comprehending that particular sentence. You don't have to worry about other sentences. Critical reasoning, on the other hand, has multiple sentences. So you have to understand each sentence properly, and you also have to relate the meaning of one sentence with another. Okay. So that's also one thing which is very, very critical. Okay. RCE is something which tests you on all three. You have to understand each sentence, you have to relate multiple sentences, and you also have to identify the main idea. Focus on the main intent of the author. Now, if you see the mapping of these three skills, now what do you think should be the right sequence of study? What do you think should be the right sequence of study? Think about it. My recommendation is to start with sentence correction. Now, why do I say so? If you start with sentence correction, then your job is limited to just focusing on one skill at a time. You just have to focus on comprehension skill. You have to build the skills well. You have to understand each sentence well. And again, even though, like if you're a non-native speaker like me, even though, and I've studied in English medium from your childhood, you'll probably do well in understanding English, obviously. But when you look at GMAT sentences, especially the hard ones, just understanding 70-80% of it will not do. You will get stuck in the last two choices. So it's very important for you to understand the entirety of it. So if you start with SC, you're just focusing on one skill, breaking each sentence down, understanding the meaning of each sentence. And then if you move to critical reasoning, then you just have to focus on analytical reasoning skills. Because by the time you have moved to critical reasoning, you have worked on your comprehension skills. You have mastered that. You have taken it to the next level. So now you're ready to master the next skill. Are you able to relate to what I'm trying to say here? Okay, quick yes, no on this. Are you able to relate to what I'm trying to say here? And please feel free to ask me any questions that you have on your mind. And then if you move to RC, then what you're doing is you are then focusing finally on the skill which is focus on the main point. Okay, so ideally, if you are starting your GMAT preparation, this is the best sequence for you. Thank you so much, Passionpreneur, Ubon, and Nets, and Ashik as well. I am happy to see that you're able to understand the point. And as I said, don't mind by the sequence that I'm telling you. If you like the logic, if you understand the logic, if you agree to it, then follow this. And that's what GMAT Wiz team strongly believes in. And we have used the sequence in our coursework, and we recommend this to first-time test takers. Obviously, if you're a retaker, depending on your skills, we recommend a different section order as well. But since I'm talking about this is a beginner's guide to GMAT prep, I'm telling you what is important for you to start with. Okay. Similarly, for Quant, it is important. In Quant, you cannot just do all the algebra topics first and then number properties topics. Because what you need to understand is there are a lot of interlinkages that exist. So in order to do, for example, I was speaking to a student yesterday, and he said, Piyush, you know what, I've covered all number properties topics from this particular book, and I've just started my quant journey, and I feel like I'm not able to get the prime numbers related concept very well, basically.
So that's something which he told me, and I told him, you know why that could have happened, because in prime numbers now you're also tested on the concept of exponents. Sometimes you're also tested on the concept of middle term factorization, which are topics from algebra. So in quant, doing number properties in algebra in that sequence of one before the other doesn't make a lot of sense, because in quant there are a lot of interrelations that exist. So basically, this sequence, which is the right sequence that matter for you, is basically written on your screen, where you have to where we have kind of looked at all the interdependencies. Like for example, in primes you will be tested on even odd numbers. You'll also be tested on exponents. You'll be tested on linear equations. You'll be tested on number basics also. So all these topics come before it. Similarly, divisibility will test your understanding of LCM GCD. It will also test your understanding of primes. So these topics come before that. So ideally, you should go about all these sections in this particular order, and you can see they are color coded across the sections. Okay, so this is very important for you. Okay, Passion Planner says the institute I joined for guidance, they started with CR. So Passion Planner, just to give you an idea, the institute I joined for my preparation, they started with all three of them together. Again, if everyone knew about how the GMAT functions, we would not have that less the very few students who are succeeding and scoring a 700 plus on GMAT. We would have many more people scoring that. And I just showed you a little while earlier that why people, like in many cases, don't even understand how the test works, basically. And in the industry, what happens is many institutes, many coachings, they just focus on scaling. And when they focus on scaling, they have a lot of tutors coming from the CAT background. So they just use the same philosophy that works in CAT for GMAT. So again, not bad mouthing anyone, but this is a general feeling that I got when I was a student and a teacher at some of the top institutes, basically. But anyway, coming back to this is the right sequence of learning that you need to follow for the Quant section. Okay. Now, once you have identified these sequence, you need to create an action plan out of it. So you know you have to start with SC, then CR, then RC. You have to do Quant in this order, and even in SC, there are multiple things that you need to take care of. So if you really want to actually ace the GMAT, you need to have a proper study plan in place where you have clear targets and deadlines, because you are right now at the very initial stages of your preparation, and many of you would be working professionals. So if you don't put targets and deadlines, your GMAT journey is going to be very difficult, because you'll not be studying consistently, because you know that round one application is going to come around August, September. You have a lot of time, and you will basically fall off the track. And later on, after 2 3 months, wasting 2 3 months, you'll towards the end only you'll start pushing yourself to get it done. So right now at this time of the year, it is very important for you to have clear targets and deadlines. So it's very important, like you need to take into account all these factors, like what your strengths and weaknesses are. For example, you could be better in quant than verbal. So depending on your strengths and weaknesses, even in verbal, you could be good in one area over the other. So you have to give more time to your weak areas and less time to your strong areas. You have to be cognizant of the fact how much time is available with you. So Karthik has a question: how do you manage work and studies during weekdays? I'll come to that, but this is a very important factor you have to keep in mind: how much time is available with you to study in a week, and accordingly you need to create an action plan. If you create an action plan which requires a commitment of 30 hours, you have 10 hours only or 15 hours, you're not going to stick to it. You're going to fall off the track, and then you're going to basically leave the studies. Sequence of learning you have to take care of. I have told you about that. And you also have to understand how much content you need to study in each of these areas. Okay, now this might seem like a humongous task for many people to kind of ace, but don't worry, at GMAT we have an amazing engine which can actually help you create this study plan for free. We don't charge you anything for this study plan. You can actually just go to our website, and it will ask you some very simple questions, starting from basically, just give me 1 second. Not sure why this video is not working. Just 1 second, guys. Just a second, please. All right, I'm not sure why this video is not working, but anyway, basically, if you go to the website, you will be able to actually create an action plan on your own. Let me just try sharing. Okay, now I think it should be showing up. So basically, our platform will ask you a few set of questions, which will actually ask you about your target score. You mention your target score. If you should have a target in mind, obviously. If you know your current GMAT score, if you already have it, or a current mock score, you can mention that. You can mention your quant and verbal sectional scores in the mock that you have taken. All these data points are taken into account to identify your strengths and weaknesses so that it can actually personalize your action plan. You can even mention your scores in SCCR and RC and the different areas, or you can just say, I don't have the score, and mention how much time is available with you per week. If you mention all these data points, what the platform does is it creates a simple action plan for you, which tells you precisely what should be the right sequence in which you should study, and in how much effort in terms of days will be required for each particular activity that you need to create, and also create a weekly action plan for you. So where you'll be able to clearly see exactly how much activities you need to complete in the current week, how much effort is required, how many videos you need to watch, which quizzes you need to take. And if you just click on the start button, it will even take you to those files that you need to go through. So it's as simple as that, just click on the start button and going through the files that are there. So all this is shown to you. Basically, the current week's plan will be given to you, and then you can click on the task view, and to see the calendar view, you will have clear deadlines for each stage of your preparation as well. So this study plan is something which is available for free on our website. You can actually have this proper study plan and understand how much time you need to spend on each activity to kind of go through like and complete your GMAT preparation. In the free trial that you are going to create, I'm just sharing the link to for that. You can actually check out the study plan properly. In the free trial, the content is limited. You only have access to about 10% of our course content. So if you want to click on the start button, obviously it will create, give you some sample files to start with, so you can go through that. But you can use the study planning feature to plan your studies. If you want to have access to the entire content, you can upgrade your account and do that as well, basically. But it is important for you to create an action plan, so you can use this link to create a free action plan on our website. Okay. Now, once you have created that action plan, the next stage of your preparation is to understand the three stages of learning. You need to focus on the three stages of learning that is required for every single topic. So in the action plan, you'll see different topics mentioned that, okay, for quant start with this, for verbal start with this. So you need to go through those topics for in three stages. Stage one of that is learning concepts. Now, this is something which most people do. Okay, out of these three stages that I'm going to talk about, most people do two stages pretty well. The one stage that they miss is the second stage. Okay, let me take a few questions as well from the chat. Uh, Purnima says, I talked to a counselor who asked me to write the GMAT mock one without any prep or anything to see where I stand. I stood at 390. What was that a good idea? So again, Purnima, if you have a very mechanical or a very simple system of studying, many people ask you to definitely take that mock. Again, I'm not against the idea of taking a mock either. You can definitely take a mock to understand where you stand. That helps you in identifying how much time you will take for your preparation. But a mock score cannot tell you exactly what are your strong and weak areas individual in individual topics. So obviously for that you have to move forward. And I would never recommend to take a mock when you're exhausted from work. So probably 390 might not be a proper reflection of your skill level. But yeah, you have taken a mock, move forward, start focusing on your preparation, and then take stock of things after a few days. What is the success rate or accuracy of this model? SC is asking this question. So probably you mean the GMAT quiz model. In terms of success rate, again, that's not the question that we're supposed to answer it as a part of the session. But again, you can go on GMAT Club, check out the results. Our average score improvement is right now the highest in the industry. GMAT Viz average GMAT score of students who have posted the GMAT Viz reviews on the website of GMAT Club is around 700 plus. And this model is very accurate. It precisely tells you what are the times and all those things that you need to go through. But obviously, as you move forward, we have employed an AI mechanism to understand what your skill level is in different topics. So as you move forward, the AI gets to learn more about you. So initially, it gives you a decent enough recommendation, but as you move forward, it learns more about you and gets even more accurate. So eventually, the predictions that we have on our platform for the GMAT scores, the timing predictions, those end up becoming very accurate as we move over time. Because as you move forward, there will be multiple diagnostic tests, small diagnostic tests, which are taken 5-question quizzes, 10-question quizzes, 15-question quizzes, based on which we will continue to change your coursework as well. I hope that answers your question, SC. Okay, so coming back to this again, guys. So three stages of your preparation, every concept that you're learning, every topic, let's say the first topic that you see, or the current topic that you see is prime numbers. So you need to first learn the concept
around prime numbers. And I'm pretty sure that most of you do that. Many people focus on learning concepts. I've just shared a slide over here. Similarly, you would probably learn the concepts for divisibility. But the second step is very critical, which is learning all the variations in which the question can be tested and a proper method to solve questions. Maximum people falter in step two. What they do right after step one is they focus on solving questions. They think, okay, I've just completed step one, so my next step should be to practice questions. They just go take up a book, also like maybe OG, just solve questions from it, or like just solve questions randomly on GMAT Club. Again, on GMAT Club, also you should be able to focus on the right set of questions. Like it is very important that before you move to step three, you first learn the variations in which GMAT tests you. Because many times what happens is you end up solving too many questions of same variety, but you're probably not getting ready for all type of questions. The second thing which is important is you should have a proper methodology also for solving questions. Because if you don't learn a right method of solving questions, you will get stuck in the hard questions. So as you move forward, ideally the course that you go through should be structured in a way that as you move forward, you are developing a skill, you are developing a methodical understanding at every stage of your preparation, and it takes you forward in that skill set basically. So it should be progressive learning mechanism that should be followed. So for example, let's say if I take the concept of divisibility, we know one equation that number is can be represented as quotient into divisor plus the remainder. Okay, now GMAT asks you questions which focus on this, that okay, if a number when divided by a particular divisor, let's call it D1, leaves the remainder of R, what is the remainder when the same number is divided by D2? So this is one kind of question which comes on GMAT. But this is just one kind of question. There are multiple variations which are possible for this. One variation of it is when you can have D2, which is a factor of D1. For example, the number when divided by 12 leaves a remainder of 5, 12 cube plus 5. What is the remainder when it is divided by 6? That is one variation. Second variation is D2 is a factor of D1, but D2 is bigger than the remainder. Sorry, smaller than the remainder, basically. So 12 cube plus 7 and is divided by 6. You can also have a variation where D2 is a multiple of D1. You can have a variation where D2 and D1 have nothing in common, and many more variations basically are possible over here. So what is important is you need to understand how each of these variations work and how you need to tweak your approach, how you need to change your approach. So first thing is, I'm not asking you to learn shortcuts in any of these cases. Learn a structured method for solving questions and then understand how you need to make small tweaks to that structured approach across the different variations that you get. That's the idea. Okay, you have to understand that. And to help students learn this better, to help students learn these different variations and a structured approach to solve questions on these variations, GMAT team has come up with the idea of the concept booster. So what we have done in every single topic that you do on our platform, you will actually get to solve a concept booster, or a booster is what we call it, where you will only solve one question at a time, one variation, starting with the simpler ones. You solve one question at a time. Right away, you will get to see the solution in depth, where we show you what is the best logical method of solving the question, not the shortcut. If there is a shorter trick, we might explain that as an alternate explanation, but not as a primary explanation. We will first focus on teaching a logical method that will work across questions. So you will see the solution, and you are supposed to analyze the solutions to understand what were the gaps in your approach. Because trust me, students, the biggest problem is not the dearth of quality questions. You'll get a lot of quality questions and you'll solve questions. The problem is when you see a question, how do you take the first step? Most people are not clear about that. They see a question, they see something has to be found out, they are not able to take the first step right. And when you take the first step wrong, you end up wasting a lot of time and energy. So to get the first step right is very important. So this concept booster is created with the idea that you solve a question, see the solution, and where you see how the first step was taken, second step was taken, and try to see where you went wrong, where the deviation came into picture. And then whatever you learned from the solution of question one, you apply that learning on question two, then look at the solution of question two, apply the learning that you have on question three, and so on. So in an iterative fashion, you're gonna move forward and improve your skills. And through these boosters, we will give you questions which are handpicked and cover different aspects. All the different variations that are possible will be covered as part of these boosters, basically.
Okay, so you can see the study plan here. You can see the prime numbers here. You can see these two concept boosters. So we recommend stage one. This is stage one, basically concept learning. Stage two is learning the application. Now, what is stage three then? Basically, stage three is practicing questions. After that, you should move to practicing questions. Okay, I'm happy to see comments that you are also following the same strategies. I'm very, very happy uh, to know that. So after you're done with learning the concept and the process of solving questions, then you should take up quizzes. You should take that topic quiz. Try to find out what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. If you are weak in something, then focus on your weak areas right away. Identify the concepts in which you are weak, and you have to work on improving those concepts properly first before moving to the next topic. Because what many people do is that when they are working on topic one, let's say you're doing prime numbers, and you have some gaps in prime numbers, even then they move to the next topic, which is factors or maybe LCM GCD, and then to divisibility, without realizing that if they are weak in primes, there are some basic things which are very important for you to do well on before you move to the more advanced topics. So if you move to the other advanced topics, you'll end up making mistakes in those areas as well, without realizing that the problem was with primes because of which you are making errors there. So you have to improve your understanding of primes first before moving to those other areas, basically. Now let's take an example. I told you the three steps, the logical steps that are required. Let's put it into perspective. Let's take an example. Now, I'm starting with verbal sentence correction basically because that was a very big pain point for me. I was not able to kind of get a very good score easily on this. When I started my sentence correction, my first thought process was that, you know what, I in order to sentence do well on sentence correction, I need to learn grammar. And I got hold of this book, Renan Martin and the Manhattan, like again Manhattan book, again very good book for learning grammar, no doubt, very very good repository of all the rules that are there. So how I worked on this was I learned all the different rules, subject verb rules, tenses, rules related to tenses, modifiers, pronouns, parallelism, all these rules. I learned about all these rules. And the good thing was that when I was solving the questions, which was right after this topics, let's say when I was doing tenses and I actually did questions which followed at the end of the topic chapter topic, basically the chapter quiz, that quiz I was doing pretty well. But the moment I started solving 700 level questions, I was doing very, very poorly on those questions. I was getting them wrong. Even not just the 700 ones, even the medium ones. Individual questions I was doing well. The other questions I was not doing well. So if any of you had faced a similar problem or is going through a similar stage or you're going to follow a similar model, you're probably going to get stuck at the same problem. If you're facing the similar problem, then it means that there's no common thread or no focus on application. You're not binding all these things with a common thread. So what's typically happening is when you're learning tenses and you see a practice quiz on tenses, you know that you have to look for a tense error. So your eyes are very widely open toward tense errors. You are focusing on that. You know what you're looking for. You're able to spot it. You're able to get it right. But in a 700 level question or a general question, you don't know which errors exist. And you're not able to find that error because you don't have any methodology in place. You're just focusing on solving questions through brute force. So what is important is that you follow like a proper approach. And if you don't follow a proper approach, there is no common learning thread that exists. In the end, in verbal, especially in topics like sentence correction and RC, you will end up getting stuck in the last two choices. Okay. And in many cases, people tell me, Piyush, you know what? Verbal is subjective. I also used to feel that for a long time. I was very good in quant, not so good in verbal. So I also felt for a long time that there is something called a best choice. There could be two possible answers, and I have to pick the best answer. But trust me, that doesn't exist on GMAT. That's not true on GMAT. There is always one right answer and four wrong ones. There are no gray areas whatsoever. And whenever you pick the wrong answer out of the last two, you are accepting something that is wrong, and you are also missing something that is right. So you are making two errors, not just one error, right? So what should be the right learning curve for sentence correction? You definitely need to learn all the topics, but there should be something common which binds all these topics together. And if you ask me what is that common element is the focus on meaning. Okay. Now think of it this way. When you speak to someone, let's say someone speaks to you in their mother tongue or your native language, and they speak something incorrectly, they use something incorrectly, do you sit with them and tell them that, okay, you know what, you have gotten this parts of speech wrong, that's why your sentence is wrong. Or you just tell them that logically this is what you're saying is incorrect. Logically, this is the problem. You do the latter, right? You always focus on the logic part. Like my mother tongue is Hindi. Like I don't use Hindi grammar to kind of tell people that this sentence is wrong in Hindi. I use my intuition, I use my logic, my understanding of the meaning of the sentence to tell them why it is wrong. On the other hand, when we prepare for GMAT verbal or sentence correction, what we do is we categorically look at parts of speech. We look at a sentence as different parts of speech. That these sentence is telling me there's a noun, there's a verb, there's a modifier. The people even use terms like gerund, participle, adverb, adjective. You classify everything into parts of speech, and then you start thinking, okay, which grammar rule will apply here? And then you fall for those shortcuts. Okay, let me look at the options. Let me see, okay, which are the differences in the options, and let me use the grammar rules accordingly. But what you need to understand is that if you're using that thought process of using like grammar rules, you cannot like recollect all those 200, 500, thousands of grammar rules that you have learned under that 2 minute and solve the question. In reality, all those rules that are tested on GMAT are meaning driven. Meaning is the common element that binds all these threads. So if you focus on learning meaning driven approach, meaning driven thought process, you will be actually able to do very well on sentence correction. And this is the skill that I'm talking about from the very beginning. So when you are learning topics in SC, don't just think, okay, I'll just learn the grammar rules and then just solve questions. Try to learn how to identify the logical intended meaning of a sentence and also learn the grammar rules from a meaning perspective. Then your life will become very easy. Then all you would need to do is read a sentence, break it down, focus on the meaning. And the moment you focus on the meaning, if you see something illogical, you'll be automatically able to identify that this is wrong. And to aid in this process, it is very important for you to learn the logical angle of that grammar rule. I hope you guys are getting my point. If you're getting my point, do say a yes. If you're not clear about it, say a no so that I can expand on the thought. Please feel free to ask the questions as well. Are you able to understand the difference in the thought process that you need to have for sentence correction instead of focusing just on grammar rules? Okay, especially if you're a non-native speaker. If you're a native speaker, you'll probably get the meaning clarity in your mind right away. Then probably grammar makes sense. Learning grammar makes sense. But if you're a non-native speaker, meaning is the only way out to do well on the GMAT sentence correction questions. So that's why when you start with sentence correction, first focus on mastering the meaning approach. Now, this is something which I'm showing from the GMAT Viz data dashboard. If you're a GMAT Viz student, you would have seen this. So please make sure when you are going through the coursework, you focus on these elements first. There is around 8 hours of coursework we have dedicated where there are a lot of quizzes, a lot of videos which you have to watch and apply, where we will teach you how to identify the meaning of any sentence. Even if you come across a very complicated sentence, very long sentence, how do you break it down in small sentences? So Avish is asking a question, how to learn meaning-based approach? So this is what I'm trying to tell you. In order to learn the meaning-based approach, there are 3 steps involved in it. Understand it this way, that if I see a long sentence, if I see multiple pieces of information, to understand the meaning, I need to break it down into small pieces. Understand the meaning of each part, and as I move forward, connect the meaning of each part with the one and continue to build on the context. Okay, so this is what we teach you over here, understanding intended meaning. Now, in order to understand where to break the sentence and what are the right break points for the sentence, you need to understand how the sentence was created in the first place, basically. Okay, because like if you don't know how the sentence was created in the first place, you'll not be able to break the sentence down. So basically, this is where you teach you assimilating information. Okay, assimilating information. This is where we teach you breaking the sentence into smaller sentences. Okay, and this is where we teach you how a sentence was created first. Because think of it this way: if you're relocating from your house to another house, and you have to disassemble a furniture, which can be disassembled, obviously, and you don't know how it was assembled in the first place, then probably you will break the furniture at the time of disassembling it, right? So it's very important that you know how the furniture was assembled. That's why the first step of learning the meaning-based approach, Avish, is to understand how a sentence is elongated or created, how GMAT uses multiple small sentences to create a big sentence.
And you don't have to go in the logic of simple, complex, and compound sentences. GMAT doesn't test that. You don't have to think about that logical analysis of simple, complex, compound. In simple logical terms, how a long sentence is created by combining multiple pieces of information. First, work on that, understand that skill, develop that skill. Then develop the skill of breaking the sentence. Then develop the skill of assimilating the information in each part to understand the entire intended meaning. Okay, I'm happy to help Avish. Thank you so much. After you have learned the meaning based approach, then you need to learn all the rules, all the grammar rules basically for each topic from the meaning perspective basically. So all the topics like subject verb pairs, pronouns, modifiers, then tenses, then parallelism, then comparison, you have to learn each one of them. But you have to learn from a meaning perspective. Because if you just learn it from a grammar perspective, you'll not be able to actually focus on the meaning based approach. The idea is simple. I understand how to break down a sentence, understand the meaning of it. Then if I learn what is the grammar, like the meaning aspect of the grammar rule, the moment I am breaking a sentence, I am understanding the meaning, I'll automatically understand why something is illogical, when there is something which is illogical. So you have to go beyond the definitions. So just to give you an idea, in GMAT Viz, we do not use the term gerund, participle, infinitive in the entire coursework. But we still teach you how these works, how these things work, and what is the application logically on the GMAT. Because GMAT is not giving you any extra points for classifying something as a gerund or a participle. And the moment you think of gerunds and participles and you start to invest your time on breaking something into parts of speech, you are wasting your energy. You're categorically thinking around that. But there is a logic behind that rule that exists. If you understand that logic, your life is simple. In Quant, for example, if I take a parallel for Quant, you read a question, you don't have to think about the formula that is going to be applied. If you just understand what is the question telling you, you'll be automatically able to, your mind automatically tells you that in this case, this formula applies. Because if you understand the logic behind the question and you know the logic behind the formula, you'll be able to apply it. If you don't know the logic, you'll not be able to apply it. Another simple example from Quant again. Let's say you have a question on simple interest compound, simple interest, let's say, okay? And all of us know probably that the formula for simple interest is nothing but P into R into T by 100. Okay, now let's say for whatever reason, on the day of the test, you forget this formula. You forget the simple interest formula. And you have a question of simple interest which is in front of you. Okay, now tell me one thing. How many of you think that you'll be able to answer this question if you don't remember the simple interest formula? You have a very simple question based on simple interest, and for whatever reason, you have forgotten the PRT by 100 question formula. Will you be able to solve the question of simple interest if you forget the formula on the day of the test? Let me see your answers. Yes, no. What do you think? What do you think? Will you be able to answer this question of PRT by 100 if you don't remember this formula of simple interest? Let me see quick yes no's from you. Purnima, I'll come to your question. That's a very interesting one. I've been advised the same multiple times. Doesn't work. Trust me. And I'll tell you why it doesn't work. Yes, Avish says yes, it's percentage change. Okay, what about others? Avish is the only one responding. Purnima, will you be able to solve the question on simple interest if you don't remember the formula PRT by 100? And again, Purnima, I'll definitely answer your question, but you can probably get on a call with me if you want a more detailed answer to this question, whether you should be actually scanning the sentence at all. But I'll definitely answer your question in the session as well. Uh, Avish says +1. So yeah, so see again, the answer to this question depends. Some people might be able to still solve the question, some people might not be able to. Who will be able to solve this question? Those who are basically aware that this is nothing but unitary method. If you understand the simple interest formula is unitary method, even if you don't recollect the formula, you'll still be able to apply it and solve it. But if you have just memorized the formula, that okay, it's PRT by 100, and you don't know, like you don't know the logic behind it, if you forget the formula, you'll not be able to solve the question. And I've taken a very simple example here. PRT by 100 is a simple example. I can take more complex examples from Quant. The same logic applies on verbal.
Many times people tell me that I'm not able to get the answers correct, but because at the time of the question I was not able to recall the rule. Now, why you are not able to recall the rule? Primarily because you don't know the logic behind the rule. You have memorized the rule. But if you understand the logic behind the rule, you don't even need to recall the rule. You'll be automatically able to apply it. That's the beauty of SC. I hope you are able to understand my point and relate to it. I'm just trying to explain something which is a little complex. So let me put up Purnima's point of view. Purnima says a teacher of mine has taught us a 3-hour class where she said you don't need to read the whole sentence, just do a horizontal scan, then mark the differences and do a rule check. Is this okay? Definitely not okay, Purnima, unless you are someone who is very, very good in verbal, in sentence correction, just like your tutor is. Okay, because they know the errors that come, they have been able to understand the logical angles multiple times, so they are able to look at those horizontal differences, and in an instance they are able to relate that okay, this is related to that, and they're able to make sense of it. But as a student, you'll not be able to apply this. You'll be only able to apply this on easy and medium questions. That's the entire thing I was talking about in the beginning, if you remember. Okay, this shortcuts only work on easy and medium questions. There is no shortcut which works on hard questions. And try to apply it yourself if you don't mind, like believe it. Try to solve hard questions today using the method that she has taught you and see if you can get them right. You'll not be able to. In fact, I have tried, like when in GMAT ways, when we were expanding our team, we were looking at hiring a lot of teachers as well. And that time we have interviewed people from coaching institutes who have trained students for 15 years, basically, and even trained a lot of faculties. I gave them a sentence correction question which was meaning based and asked them to solve it. They were not able to solve the question, not able to solve it. Trust me, even by looking at the splits, because the splits did not help them understand the logical difference which is there in the meaning. So even sometimes those teachers will not be able to solve hard questions if they are meaning focused. So focus on the meaning. There is no shortcut. And I understand that you have to save time on CR to save time for CR and RC. You have to save time on SC, but that is something you don't have to force yourself to do. That is something which will naturally happen because there's just one sentence in SC. If you're forcing yourself to save time, then you're doing something wrong. I hope that gets the point across, Purnima. Instead of simple interest, your point holds good with compound interest. Nits, my point holds good with every formula. If you know the formula, you don't have to kind of remember the formula. You can actually work well. Obviously, in some cases, it makes sense to remember the formula as well. I'm not saying you don't have to remember the formulas, but the idea is if you know the logic, you're not dependent on the formula or the rule. Okay, so the same thought process has to be applied for other areas, like for RC and CR also. Like when I was preparing, just to go back to my old days, when I was preparing for RC, my teachers never, ever, ever, ever taught me how to read a passage. The first thing that was done to me was given a handout. You solve these passages, 2, 3 passages, then we are going to come and solve it with you. And then they come after like 40 minutes or so, and then they will solve the question. They will show why this option is right or wrong, which part of the passage is referring to this and why it is wrong. But no one really taught me how to read. The only advice that I got was read fast, basically. Read the sentences fast, read the passages fast, read more newspapers, and my focus was on reading speed. But in reality, if you want to do RCs well, you have to understand the context of every single passage properly. And in order to do that, you have to learn how to read a passage, how to contextualize the passage. And that's where, if you see, we are asking you to spend about 8+ hours of your effort on understanding how to read a passage. There are multiple stages involved in that again, just like for meaning-based approach. There are multiple stages involved in that. So again, it's very important that you first develop this skill set before moving forward. If you don't develop this skill set, you don't know how to read a passage, and you're just looking at solving questions, more questions, and learning from the questions, you are wasting your time because you're not even learned the basics of it. If you don't understand the context, you'll not be able to solve the questions. As simple as that. If I have to give you a simple example, let's say you are driving on a very rainy day. Okay, it's a very rainy day or foggy day, whatever. Like let's talk about rain. That's a better example. So it's raining heavily, and you're driving, and for whatever reason, your wipers are not working. So you're driving, your wipers are not working. Even if you are the best driver possible in the entire world, you'll still have a tough time because you can't see anything which is lying in front of you clearly. That's the same thing which happens if you try to solve a RC passage by skimming through the passage, by not having the right understanding of the passage. Then you will be only working with the choices without having a clear understanding of the context. And GMAT is very clever. GMAT cleverly puts in 2 choices which are very close,
And in many cases, those two choices will test your understanding of the global inference, which will test your understanding of the entire context, not just a part of the passage. So if you just go back to a particular part of the passage, you might feel that this answer choice is correct. But if you look at the entire context, that is incorrect. So those kind of things also happen. Now, if you want to understand how to learn the passages correctly, there are a lot of good lessons which we have given in our GMAT with free trial as well. So you can actually click on this link, create a free trial account, and actually go through it, check it out for yourself, basically. So those are there. But the idea is, I've just given you some examples. The idea is that when you're learning, in your learning phase, you need to focus on the right methods. So the right methods for sentence correction is focusing on the meaning-based approach. Critical reasoning, you have to do pre-thinking. RC, you have to involve yourself by reading the passage. For DS, you have to draw inferences from the questions there. And PS, you have to follow a three-step process. So there's a very big important, like this methods are very, very critical for you to succeed on the hard questions. So focus on the methods in your learning phase. With that, let's jump to the fine-tuning stage. What should you do in the fine-tuning stage? So in the fine-tuning stage, when you have learned all the concepts, then you have learned, for each topic, you have learned the concept, then a method, then practice questions, then moved on to the next topic. You're doing this for all the topics in a sequential way. Once you're done with this for all the topics, then you move to the fine-tuning stage. Here, you need to devote 60 to 70% of your energy on your weak areas solely. So you need to identify what your weak areas are and give about 60 to 70% attention to them. And the rest of the time you divide on revision and general practice, basically. Now, how do you tackle your weak areas? So try to classify them into buckets. So see in which topics your score is less than 60%. Those generally mean that there are certain conceptual gaps also in those areas. See which topics are there where your score is between 60 and 85%. Those basically mean you are good at concepts, but the method that you're using to solve the questions or the application that you are having, like the application of the concepts, you're not able to do. So for the conceptual gaps, you need to learn or revise the concepts and formulas again. Because what I see many people doing is that at the end of their learning phase, they randomly go about learning or revising all the concepts. You should not be doing that. You should be categorically focusing on your concept gaps. So learn and revise the formulas, then learn how to solve questions. As I said, focus on the different varieties of questions and practice about 15 to 20 questions, or you might have to do a little more. At this stage, you should get yourself at a level where you can get the easy and medium questions correct comfortably. Don't worry so much so about the hard questions as of now, but at least get to a level where you can get the easy and medium questions correct. On the other hand, the topics in which you are having application gaps, you don't need to learn the concepts again. You probably know the concepts pretty well, basically. The second thing which you have to learn over here is the main thing you have to learn over here is how to solve questions in a methodical way, how to go about them solving in a methodical way, and practice about 10 to 15 questions. In this scenario, take one question at a time. After solving each question, look at the solution, then move to the next question and apply that learning from each question to the next one, basically. Okay. And if you're again a GMAT student, we use AI to the next level to kind of personalize and automate the entire process. So if you go to your GMAT dashboard, it will and click on Quant or Verbal, it will also show you a lot of data on the bottom. There's a lot of information which is there. You want to analyze that. There is more information below this, old as well. But it also automatically uses AI to identify your weaknesses. So it will tell you what are your concept related weaknesses, what are your practice related weaknesses, and what are your timing related weaknesses. And the best part is, at a click of a button, it will allow you to revise those concepts as well right away. So you don't have to worry about, okay, what should be my next step after this. So you just have to look at what are the topics that you are weak at, click on the revise button, it will create a video lesson out of it. Click on the solidify concept button. After revising the videos, you can actually create a quiz as well on those areas. Automatically, the platform does it all for you in very, very simple terms. Basically, it's that easy. Okay, so make sure that you're focusing on your weak areas. And one more aspect which is very important in the fine-tuning stage is the timing angle. So what we recommend is that when you are in your learning phase, at that point of time, you should not focus on timing. You should focus on learning the right method. Because when you're learning the right method, especially the methods that I told you, the logical methods, initially it will take slightly more time to get used to it. And that's a normal process. Like if you're in your professional experience, in your professional career also, if you're working in an analytics firm or a coding firm, initially when you're working on a new tool or something, you take some time to know or learn the tool.
And once you get used to it, the time automatically reduces. Okay, so the same thing happens in the initial learning phase. Focus on learning the method, and in the fine tuning phase, focus on timing yourself, basically. So let me cover that as well. Soumya has a question. Can you please let me know how can I reach out to you one on one, having a lot of queries? So Soumya, I've shared a link a little while earlier to connect with me. So you can use this link to schedule a discussion with me. I'll just share it again. I'm not sure if it is showing up on LinkedIn or not. Ideally, it should be, but if it is not, then you might have to just open this feed on YouTube and check it out in the chats. Probably you're not able to see it because you're watching it on LinkedIn, basically. Okay, so yeah, so focus on timing in your fine tuning stage. All right, so the idea of working on your weak areas is revise the concepts, review the solutions, make sure that you're focusing on learning, and very importantly, quality is more important than quantity. So don't think that I need to solve 50 questions daily. Even if you're solving 20, 30 questions daily and focusing on learning, you'll be able to do a very good job at it. So again, Soumya, since you're on LinkedIn, I'm not able to share this link with you because this is showing on YouTube. So you have to come to GMAT Club's YouTube channel and do it. Otherwise, you will have to like this is the link that you have to use is www.calendly.com. Calendly is a very popular website. CALANDLY.com /GMATWiz. So this is the link which you can use, or you can just send an email to support@gmatwiz.com as well, and my team will help you connect with me, hopefully. Okay. So in this phase, how to improve your timing? After optimizing your weak areas, you take sectional tests and then focus on improving your time. Once you have improved your understanding of the weak areas, then focus on improving the timing. So let's say after you have worked on your weak areas, your time taken per question is, let's say, 2 minutes 30 seconds. Okay, like this 2 minutes 30 seconds. So you take a sectional test next and you try to reduce this time to 2 minutes 20 seconds. Once you're comfortable with this timing, then you try to reduce it to 2 minutes 10 seconds. Then you try to reduce it to 2 minutes and so on till the time you are perfect around it. So the idea is that you first work on your weak areas, take it to a level where you are able to get it right, you confidently, and then work on reducing the time. Okay. And in these cases, working with a mentor and data helps a lot because a mentor can look at multiple things and help you in understanding where you're going wrong. So at GMATWiz, if you're a GMATWiz student, you get a dedicated mentor assigned to you with whom you can connect every 10 to 15 days to get an assessment of your progress, to understand what are your weak areas and where you need to focus, how much focus you need to give on timing and all of that. So we provide a mentor to all our students. So if you're a GMAT student, please make sure that you stay in touch with your mentor to get their advice around it. Okay. Now the final stage of your preparation would be your mock stage. Now, what should be your mock strategy? First thing that you need to do is understand how you should pace yourself during the test and how the algorithm also works. So for that, I shared a link of our session that we conducted on this. So I'm sharing that link again. So first learn about these strategies in this phase. Okay, this is the link that you guys can use to watch this session recording. Okay, and there are a lot of video recordings on our YouTube channel that you can go through. Do subscribe to it so that you get the notifications for the new videos as well. So go through that, you can learn about other strategies as well. But for mocks, first learn about the timing strategies and then take a mock test every 3 to 4 days. Now, this is what you're doing in the mock phase, not from your day one. You're doing this after completing your learning phase, after completing your fine tuning phase, making sure that you're not weak in multiple areas. So then you can take one mock every 3 to 4 days and focus a lot on analysis. So generally, my rule of thumb is if you are taking 3 hours, spending 3 hours on doing a mock test, on the analysis of the mock test, you should be spending 2 to 3 hours minimum. That is minimum that you need to spend. All right. And if your mock score is 50 to 60 points below your target score, let's say your target score is 700 and your mock score is around 630, 640. That means it is 50 to 60 points below your target score. In that case, you should not be taking mocks every 3, 4 days. You should go back to your fine tuning phase because if your score is that much away from your target score, that generally means that your fine tuning stage was not complete or you have not done it properly. So do connect with your mentor again, check with them, understand where you need to work on, and then work on those areas before coming to mocks again. Decrease the frequency of mocks. Okay. So that's how you go about your GMAT preparation. I've tried my best to help you understand the different strategies, the different things which matter for GMAT. Now opening up the session for the open-ended Q&A. If you guys want to ask any questions, you can ask me now. Right now would be the time to ask any other questions that you have in mind, you can connect with me on my WhatsApp number, which is presented on the screen. You can also send me an email on my email ID. I've also given a link which you can use to connect with me over a phone telephonic discussion if you want to. Okay, so please let me know if you have any other questions on your mind. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. And in case you want to check out the free trial of GMAT and get free access to some of the top quality content and the best strategies that work on GMAT, you can actually use this link to avail that free trial as well. Okay, so please let me know if you have any questions, guys. I'm more than happy to take them up for you now. Do let me know any questions that you have in mind. I hope you guys found the session helpful. This gave you an idea about how to go about preparing for the test, how to go about the various sections, the sequence, how to create a study plan, and all those things. So I tried my best to kind of share those details with you in the best possible way today. So do let me know if you have any other questions in mind that I can take care of. Started preparation from Jan, not properly as of now. So is it okay to schedule exam around May? So passion planner again. Ideally, if you ask me, 3 to 4 months of prep time. Again, I'm assuming I'm talking about people who have majorly studied from GMAT West. 3 to 4 months time is generally sufficient, even if you're an average student and you're starting from the basics. But again, right now I would not recommend to block the exact time slot for the test. What I recommend is that toward when you're coming close to your test date, month or month and a half before it, try to see your mock scores and based on that you take a call, basically. And if you want to understand how like students generally go about preparing for GMAT, this is one very good example. Shreyash, who actually worked with us for about a good like 3 4 months, but he prepared primarily for 1 or 2 months only. Like other months, he was not very consistent, and he was able to get a 760 in the on the GMAT basically. So that's something he was able to do, and he's right now studying at Harvard. Uh, okay, so you're not working right now, you're preparing full time. Full time wise, I don't think you would probably need even time till May. Another example, Mantavya, again, he was not preparing full time, but he was in his final year of college. He scored about 770 in just 2 months' time, basically. That another example that you can probably look at. This is another example that you can check out. But ideally, like if you're doing full-time studies, 2 to 3 months should suffice, even if you're an average student, not an excellent student, it should suffice. Depends on how you spend your time and energy as well. So you have to focus on doing the right things from the get-go. So Priyanka is asking, do you have a separate course for verbal only? So Priyanka, again, what we have done is like earlier we used to offer a separate course for verbal, which was offered for $149, where you only had access to the verbal part of our coursework. But now what we have done is for the same $149, we are offering you a 2 month plan, basically, which kind of gives you access to the entire coursework of GMAT Viz. This way, and like people get not only verbal, they also get the 10 mocks that come in our package, basically, and it also gets them the access to the mentor with whom we can connect every 2 weeks. And if you're weak in 1 or 2 areas of quant, you have the quant material as well for practice with you. Because generally, even if you just take our verbal course, you will be able to complete it easily in 2 months. So in that same 2 month, for the same price, we are giving you more services. So you can check out our plans if you want to using this link. We have 3 validity link plans like 2 month, 4 month, and 6 month plan. And all the course offerings are the same. This is just a validity link plan, a subscription model that we follow. Okay. Any other questions about the GMAT? Any other questions about your preparation, guys? I don't see any other question as of now, so I'm gonna be here for another couple of minutes. But in case you want to discuss it personally with me, instead of putting it across to the entire public here, you can actually connect with me using this link, which I shared a little while ago, the Calendly link. It's a very easy link, calendly.com/gmatrix. All right. Yes, Nits, please go ahead and ask your question. Happy to take it up for you. And I hope you guys found the session helpful. If you did find it helpful, do give it a thumbs up and do share it with your friends who are preparing for the GMAT as well. For someone who had 12 years of study gap, what would you recommend? Nice question. 12 years of study gap. So see again, for you, probably the biggest challenge would be to kind of overcome the inertia in the first 15 to 20 days because it's something which is like gonna be a challenge in the beginning. And if you're very good in quant, then obviously that takes care of a significant part of your preparation. But what is important here is that you have to be very patient in the beginning with verbal, and you have to stick to a schedule. So you have to identify a slot in which no one disturbs you, maybe earlier in the morning before you start your work, and stick to that slot so that you get into the schedule of study. And then the second thing you have to do is you have to focus on starting from the very basics, then moving to intermediate and advanced stages only when you are comfortable with the basics. So that's something which is important. You have to keep in mind. You're a communication skills trainer. That's a good thing. So you probably have the right skills in place. You just have to channelize your energy in the right direction. So just make sure that you're sticking to the schedule. Understand what the GMAT really tests, and you can probably use your own arsenal to kind of take your skills to the next level. So do that, and then GMAT is we start our course from the very basics. We'll probably even teach you in verbal what is a subject, a verb, a tense, how to identify that. All of that will start in quant. We will even start with the basics of integers, fractions, and what we do is we use AI to take your learning to the next level. So we identify which student is good at what topic, and based on that, if they're good at something, they can run through that faster. The AI recommends them to move through that faster and focus more on their weaker areas basically. Okay, good. So if you're not been out of studies, so you'll probably be able to pick up the schedule for GMAT as well. So focus on the GMAT style of testing you, and like channelize your energy in that direction. So probably you need to understand the test better from a application perspective and the concept perspective. Okay, hope that answers your questions, next. Great, guys. So I don't see any other questions. So I'm hopeful that all of you are able to benefit from the session. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me on my email ID and all. Okay. So Soumya, we don't have a batch format. We have a self-paced online course, which is, by the way, much more effective than any of the live classroom coachings that people attend. We have delivered amazing success through our online course. Even people who have attended top class coaching institutes in India and gotten stuck with 600, 650 using them have scored 730, 740 using our online course itself. So it's an automated process. You start with the online course in your pace. At any point of time, you can do that. And you have Saturday, Sunday classes at 7 p.m. Those are for advanced strategy discussions, basically, that we have every weekend. So you can attend those classes at 7 p.m. India time every weekend as well, basically. And if you want to check out our courses, you can check it out. So there's no batch that you have to start with. You will have regular classes every weekend, and you can go through them, basically. Okay, but the main important thing is the online course that you are doing. And if you miss any of the classes, those are added to the recordings of your online courses. Do you suggest going through the entire course for those reappearing? So, Nikhil, that depends basically. That depends on what stage you are at. Are you good in specific areas? How good are you in those areas? If you're really good in some areas, we recommend not focusing your attention on that as much. But if you're not, then obviously you have to focus your attention on that. So, probably you can have a discussion with me. Like, I can probably help you in understanding whether you need to go through the entire course or you can customize the coursework for the same. Okay. Sure, Soumya, take your time, sort out the queries. I like when you sort out your queries and reach out to me. That way we will have a more effective discussion. Okay, let's say that I'm kind of old school. I like peer studying. What do you recommend for such a person? I miss studying in groups. So probably you have to find people who are basically studying for the GMAT in your circle, or else you can also find some study partners on GMAT Club. And yeah, maybe connect with them once in a while. That will help you. Okay, but yeah, I again I have done my graduation long back, probably 14 years ago, so I can understand that old school thought process that I also had. But yeah, like if you are actually learning with the right tools, you probably don't need to study in groups all the time. Like sometimes you definitely need to kind of get that feeling away. But yeah, that's something you can do. All right, guys. So great. I think I've answered all the questions. I would have loved if more questions were asked, but I hope my session was able to cover most of the queries that you guys had. So all the best for your GMAT prep. I'm signing off for the day. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions. More than happy to help at any point of time. Thank you so much, guys.